Welcome everyone to our presentation. My name is Amy Kovacs and I'm the Education Director for Sound Experience aboard the Schooner Adventurous. In this presentation, we're going to take you on a short journey, the evolution of our ship, the Schooner Adventurous, and how she started as a personal yacht in 1913, became Puget Sound's environmental tall ship, and how we continue our evolution to stay relevant in our ever-changing environment. Presenting with me today is Jenny Huntley, our Education Coordinator, and Julie Masura, Board President. We thank you for tuning in and hope you enjoy our presentation. I'll pass it over to Jenny to kick us off.
Hi everyone, thanks for the introduction, Amy. This is Jenny. Let's dive right in and start at the beginning. Adventurous was built in 1913 in East Boothbay, Maine for a man named John Borden, shown here on the left. He was a wealthy young businessman from Chicago who wanted to voyage to the Arctic Ocean. Borden was joined by a young naturalist named Roy Chapman Anders, shown here on the right. He was from the American Museum of Natural History and joined the expedition to help bring a bowhead whale to the museum's new whale exhibit. One of my favorite facts about Roy Chapman Anders is that he may have been one of the people who inspired the Indiana Jones character. Borden, Anders, and the crew left Maine and headed down around South America, through the Straits of Magellan and up to Alaska. Unfortunately, the ice had come earlier than they had planned that year, so they weren't able to make it as far as they had hoped. The expedition didn't get a whale, but they did get to do some groundbreaking research on northern fur seals in the Pribilof Islands. After the expedition didn't quite go as planned, John Borden decided to sell Adventurous to the San Francisco bar pilots. For those of you that don't know, a bar pilot is a specialized captain who is very familiar with the potentially dangerous sandbars surrounding certain bodies of water. As a bar pilot ship, Adventurous would be a home base for the pilots while they waited for large ships to arrive. When the pilots were called to duty, they would take a small boat from Adventurous, meet and take command of the large ship, and then come into San Francisco Bay. After the large ship was safely in the bay, the pilots would return to Adventurous in the small boat and start the process again. Adventurous did this job for 30 years, including a few years where she worked with the Coast Guard in World War II to help patrol the coast. It's joked that she went from a princess as a fancy yacht to a working girl in her pilot years. In 1952, Adventurous was moved up to Seattle and passed around to a couple different private owners for a few years. She had Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts climb aboard for sail training and eventually was sold to Sound Experience to be used as a unique platform for environmental education. In her 107 years, Adventurous has a rich history. I've told you about a few of the highlights in her early years, but if you'd like to learn more, I'd highly recommend checking out our new podcast series called Podcast Off. There are 5 episodes that go a bit more in depth about all of the incredibly different lives that Adventurous has had over the years. Some of the stories include dealing with fires on board, being scuttled or sunk, and the story of her lost and then found original 1913 ship's bell. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Julie, who will tell you about what Adventurous and Sound Experience have been up to in more recent years.
Thank you, Jenny. My name is Julie Masura, and I'm going to talk to you about the present state of Sound Experience. Sound Experience continues to support the vision of being focused on environmental issues in the Puget Sound. With the evolving change of the name of Puget Sound to the Salish Sea, we recognize the changing environmental priorities of our region. In 2019, we served 2,619 people. Over 2,000 people crossed the decks of the Adventurous. Little over 1,000 were youth, and the rest were adults. 1,500 were adults. We sailed for 186 season days. That's a little bit shorter because we just came off of a major deck project. A half of that was youth only. 35% were family and adults, and 17% of those days were training world-class crew. 75 programs were delivered. 29 of those were sound studies, an afternoon sail exploring environmental issues. 7 were sound explorations overnight programming. 33 were public and day sails. and 6 open enrollment and member sales. For our school and youth programs, those include those sound studies, the afternoon cruises, overnight exploration for sound exploration. And finally, partnership with Port Townsend and the Port of Seattle, in which we are involved in career and technical education programming. Public engagement includes public sales, dockside tours, dock talks, a new adventure where we have people come onto, or we have experts come onto the ship to offer to do talks, and we use the Adventurous as a platform to educate the community. Summer programming, I'll highlight 3 of my favorite. Girls at the Helm is an all-girl crew, all female participants, and mentors, science mentors, and mentors of all types are on board to learn and delve into some pretty interesting community issues. A Fantastic Voyage is a multi-gender cruise, very similar, and the intergenerational cruises. Grandparents and their grandchildren come together to explore the Salish Sea together. The education team includes Amy and Jenny, who are on this talk with me today. They work together to support teacher and student needs. They offer themes like maritime trades, emerging issues in the Salish Sea, becoming a mariner, and marine ecology. Learning stations include plankton, marine life, mechanical advantage, marine debris, life aboard, exploring sustainability on a closed system like the ship, navigation and nautical skills. The education team, or the education committee for Sound Experience, includes board members, past and former crew, educators both in science and education, scientists, etc. They come together to explore the relevance of programs to ensure that we're meeting the needs of teachers and following next generation science standards. Finally, I'm going to leave you today with another invitation to listen to a pretty neat podcast. We just participated in a program called Voices Unbound, where we discuss plastic pollution and working on Girls at the Helm, highlighting the partnership between Sound Experience and students from the University of Washington-Tacoma with the theme of plastic marine pollution. Now I'm going to hand it off to Amy to finish our talk.
Thank you, Julie. So we have shared a bit about Adventurous's past, our present, and now I'd like to talk a bit about how we continue to stay relevant and reach people of all backgrounds and ages. One thing that is certain for our organization to be successful and to continue to reach our goals is that we can't do it without community. We have such an incredible community, and we want to continue to grow that. As a dedicated learning organization, we are committed to evolving our programs to increase the relevance for today's youth and all people. And we face some challenges with that. To name a few, we have growing environmental issues, lack of diversity, and funding, not only for us, but for our local schools. So what are we doing to face these challenges? Well, we're asking questions like, what are the key indicators for Sound Experience to become a sustainable nonprofit? How do we stay relevant? What grants do we get? How do we get more people across our deck? We're talking to our communities, we're talking to new communities, and we're doing that through partnerships, through outreach, and through opportunities like our empowerment evaluation. We're doing research, so we're collecting data from our programs, working with UW-Tacoma to assess that data. We are researching how to better market our programs and what the best practices of our industry are, and we're staying up to date with environmental issues facing our area to better our curriculum. We're refining our work using documents like our program approach, which you can see here, where we're helping define our core competencies and practices, and we're creating clear language about what we offer, and we're putting more systems in place. We're taking steps to grow and learn, and we're doing that by creating initiatives to help guide us. This year, we identified 3 initiatives: expand programming with underserved and marginalized youth, enhance Sound Experience curriculum, engage past, present, and future teachers. We identified the why and how for each of those, and we tackled the how and began to put building blocks down for the future. For those of you listening this week in April of 2020, we are all facing the unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic. All of us are making decisions in a rapidly changing environment. The only way we're going to get through this is by helping each other whenever and however we can. We're currently in a recovery period, and as I'm sure you can all relate, this last year during COVID has been a time that we have had to adapt, we've had to be flexible, we've had to be innovative and creative to continue reaching the community, engaging with the community, and serving the youth in our community. One of those things that we did was provide virtual programming. Another way that we engage the community is by creating and pivoting for our annual gala. So we created a fundraising event called the Adventurous Cup, which was an innovative event out on the water, socially distanced, and one that incorporated education as a main portion of the event for this fundraising gala. And it's exciting. We're in year 2 of that now. So that is happening this September. And we are excited to bring that to the public again. And I'm happy to say at this time, we are offering small in-person programming aboard the vessel. So we are back out on the water, serving the communities that need the ship the most. And we're going to continue to do that in a COVID responsible way as we move forward through this pandemic. Thanks for listening. Please feel free to reach out to any of us for any questions or curiosities about our programs or the work that we've done during this pandemic year.